Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you. We're going to be doing our Native American myths and legends like always on the 4th of July here with my co-host David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Thank you for coming on this day. Wonderful Independence Day, I should say.
Yeah, and we're independent of one another, but we're still a group of folks. And welcome, greetings, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We always welcome you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And if you can look behind me, you can tell it's 10 o'clock at night. Did he just hang up over there? I think this is on record.
It's just having troubles. That's just normal. That's normal.
Okay. Got a little slow there.
Yeah. It might be the middle of the day when there's, a lot of people were doing a lot of internet stuff. I don't know.
Yep.
But anyhow.
School is out for the summer.
Yeah, we'll just keep trucking along. Don't worry about it. That stuff happens every now and then. But
yeah, it says live up there. Does that mean we actually are live?
No, that's just recording. It shouldn't be live. Now you got me worried. You got me worried and thinking, oh my gosh, how would we be live? No. Anyway, how's your week been so far?
Okie dokie.
A
little weird with the therapy thing the other day. I did not get in the pool like I was hoping, but that's okay.
Yeah. Oh well, that's the way it goes. Nope, we're good. We're live right here, right now. That's what I should say. Anyway, we're gonna
Memorex.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Okay, so I'm going to shrink that. We're going to do some presentation stuff. Remember, every time we get going, we got all these things, and I made up this cool logo for my new videos that I'm going to be putting up. So I'm going to share that with everybody. Oh, I can just add to stream. Look at that. Look at that. Fort Union, North Dakota rendezvous. That was my rendezvous this last weekend or a couple weekends ago. Geez, how fast time goes. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, we're halfway through the year. This is June 30th that we're recording this for July the 4th. Oops, I let it out.
Yep.
But happy 4th of July, everybody.
Yeah, okay. So we did not get to the Indian guy, and some of the recording here, and we're gonna do the recording from Michael Badhand, and he did a presentation. Some of it turned out really good, but you got to bear with me because hey, it was just a presentation. I had 3 different cameras. I was standing outside for quite a while. I had my dog in one hand and the camera in the other, and the wind's blowing, and it is what it is. So bear with me, everybody. Here we go. And let's see if I can make this any bigger. Yeah, how about that? That looks pretty good size. Let me play it. You can't hear it, can you? I'm going to have to stop. Stop remote. Couldn't hear that, could you? Okay. Let's try this again. I think I forgot to hit the audio. Share tab. Share tab. There we go. And let's try this again.
So many buttons that have to be pushed.
And why there is no sound, I don't know.
I stand up. And they were always doing this. They were always reminding each other of their war honors because there was no TV, no written word. And I've read where these guys, right out of the mouths, these guys that did all this, They said if we didn't remind people every now and then, they'd forget. Or someone else would take credit for my war honors. Yeah. Because there was no other way. But as long as 2 or 3 times a year you got in front of everybody and said, 4 snows ago, 4 winters ago, down on the Pawnee Fork River, I killed 2 Pawnee, counted school on them, took their scalps. So anyway, they do the same thing. They hold that feather up and say that, I killed a Blackfeet warrior when they invaded our camp, raided our camp. Oh, wow. They sew that feather onto the head drop. And then another guy might get up. He might have 4 or 5 of them he can add on there. And he'll say, I did this, I did that. Hey, I did this, so you get it. So it doesn't necessarily, and a man could have all these himself. There are many men that had 30, 40, 50 war honors. But most of them weren't overachiever warriors. It's like everything in society. There were guys that egged them on. It's like, we got to go get these people. They've been messing with us. We can't let them. A lot of warriors were like, hey, man, they ain't really bothering us here. I've been having fun just laying around. I got like 3 nice wives. I lay around in my teepee, smoke my pipe, and gamble, and every wives feed me. Why do I want to go do that? That's a lot of trouble. We'll be walking forever, get killed, scalped, mutilated, blah, blah, blah. So no, you're a coward, be a man. Come on, stand up, follow me. So there were guys like that, but the majority really weren't like that. They really are. They're like, they like all of them would protect themselves defensively. That's totally different. And some tribes, like the Mandan and the Hidatsa that live near here, that lived in permanent villages, they were very much against offensive warfare. Because when you're nomadic, offensive warfare is fine because nobody knows where to find you anyway. You're here today, 3 weeks later, you're way out there somewhere. But when everybody knows exactly where you live, and a bunch of your young boys, 17, 19, 21 years old, which is like most of them were that went to war, they're like that age, like all war. And they went out and killed a bunch of enemies. Those enemies are going to know who did it. And they're going to follow them back, and they're going to wreak havoc on your village because they know exactly where it is. So that's how that works. So those tribes, their main war orders had a lot to do with defensive war, and the things that you accomplished in defensive war. And real quick here, I'll show you on this. So a shirt like this says a lot. Like I said, it's like a military dress uniform. So the pipes on here would be how many war parties you had led, successful war parties. They never counted the not successful ones. that didn't count. Why would you count that? You loser. So that's what these pipes would be. Over here, these would be victims. Your own personal victims. Stylized on there. And whether it's on a buffalo robe or a painted shirt, there's a lot of these in existence today. Lots of them. Almost all of them will have women on there. So this one right here is the one.
Well, I guess that is the end of that one. But yeah, as you can see, I think I traded cameras at that point because of that one wasn't working quite as well.
Let me make a point that he just made.
Yeah. Yes,
and
go ahead.
We talked about the Plains Indians and everything, and some of them being warriors and some of them not. Well, see, I think he said the Mandan, right? And one of the, I can't remember what the other tribe, but that they were offensive, defenses rather than offensive. Because if you had a permanent camp, everybody knew where you were. Well, that makes perfect sense. So this idea that some people have that the native folks were warring amongst themselves all the time, and they were always, we have talked about, going out and swiping a horse, and what's that called?
What do you mean?
When remember
counting coup?
Yeah, counting coup. So in counting coup, it was sort of a game.
Yep.
And so, and if you were a tribe that sat still and went out and did something to another tribe, they were going to know right exactly where you were. So they'd come back and maybe swipe the same horse that you swiped in counting coup. So, but I just wanted to point that out. And it was like, yeah, there you go. Because folks thought that everybody moved all the time, and that's not true. And also that they were defensive, not offensive in their warrior kind of stuff. Not that they wouldn't go out and raid, but it was more about counting coup.
I agree. Okay, and how did they get there? This is the next part. Okay, I got this one ready.
Still,
I wanted to say something about the shirt. Did you like the part with the shirt where some had the pipe on it, means a successful raid, and the other side had things for how many scores or whatever he did on one side of his shirt. You know what I mean?
I was trying to listen to it, and the camera went a little funky, but not your
Yeah.
fault. Well, it
Yeah,
was, but
was, yeah. But I mean, we can play that over. But if you
no,
look
but
at
I
his
mean,
shirt,
but since you stopped and talked about it, explain it a little bit. So one side of his shirt did what?
well, one side of his shirt he had the pipes on it, right? I mean, all the successful raids that they did, and then the other side of the
Was it a
shirt,
picture, painted
yes, it
picture,
was a
or?
painted picture of like a peace pipe,
And
and
so
then
if he did five good raids, then he had five pipes.
yes, and then on the
Okay,
other side was how many people, Braves he killed, or a score. Basically it was a scorecard, just like he was explaining about the feathers. So each
right.
feather meant a different thing. So I suppose what it is, basically your whole dress is, a like just like in the military.
Right.
You're in the military, and every time you get a little bar, oh, you're a major, you're a private, you're a oh, look, you got a Medal of Honor here, you got a Purple Heart. Wow, look at all those medals you got on. You must have done some
And
extraordinary
sometimes those
things.
medals are like, you served, like my brother served in the Mediterranean during the
Mm-hmm.
very first Gulf War, and
Yep.
so they have a service medal for that. And not everybody gets one. If you didn't serve in the that first Gulf War, you didn't get a medal. So, but on his list of things, he's got one because they were there during an engagement.
And yes,
So
yes,
that
and
in the same way, if you participated and blah blah blah, then it went on your shirt.
yeah, yeah,
And as he
exactly.
was, and to back that up, at the very beginning of the tape, he was describing um, that how you had to tell your story 3 or 4 times a year for people to remember.
Yeah.
And so, if he was a good warrior, then he would go out and say, "Hey, remember me? Remember when the Blackfeet came in and raided our village, and I knocked out two, and took a prisoner, and got a horse, said, hey, hey, hey," and so to remember those things, because of no
Mm-hmm.
TV or whatever, as he was saying, they would get up several times a year and tell their stories so that the
Mm-hmm.
tribe knew, and he might have been a braggart, but most of the time they didn't. They stretched the story a little bit to make it, but no, we went and raided the Cheyenne or whatever, and hey, 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 and everybody cheers. And so, but that was
Well,
how
and that,
people remembered.
well, they remembered because there was no books or written. They didn't go out there and write everything down and go, oh yeah. And in the book, I get out my book here. It says, handsome Jack over there. He helped Big Nose over there, and they went out and scalped 3 men and killed 5 buffalo. 10
Right,
moons ago. Well,
right.
they didn't have that written record. You had to remember yourself. you know. And of course,
And
like you
so
said, there was no TV, no radio. So, hey, we got to have some form of entertainment at the same time. What a great way to do it.
but it was also, if you're with, if you got a tribe of 30 people, I remember him saying 30 for some reason. So, but anyway, so you got a tribe of 30 people, and, you're gathered around. And so everybody knows everybody, but, hey, remember that time when we went down to the pond and caught that big giant catfish? Hey, do you remember the time? So it's not just a personal story, but the person who was in the tribe provided the story for the tribe, because if he went out and
Mm-hmm.
killed a buffalo, then everybody ate well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so if he went out and didn't kill a buffalo, then everybody was pretty much hungry and eating jerky,
Mm-hmm.
So and to remind the tribe of those stories. And then as the little kids grew up, it's like, grandfather, you went and killed a buffalo. Oh yes, and here, look at my shirt. This buffalo here on the shirt, and he points down, this is that buffalo that I killed, and then I killed some before and some after, and so he can tell the story to the grandchildren, not necessarily his own, but of the tribe, and say, this is how the tribe survived because of me and your grandmother and all these other people, grandma's the one that cooked the dang thing and turned it into a stew so we could all eat it. But, so the story in that, there's a lot of other things, but for them to stand up and tell the story 3 or 4 times a year and so the tribe will remember, that's, to me, that's wonderful. Because there are so many stories, like there are things that my grandfather did that I don't know about because they never told the stories. And it's like, wait a minute, there was a man that I hung around with that owned the carnival, and I didn't find out until he died that he got a Purple Heart and a special accommodations, the not the Silver Star, but the main one, for the Battle of the Bulge during World War II.
Wow.
And I would sit I didn't know it that he was there, but I was reading a book about the Battle of the Bulge, and he was like, well, part of that's true, David, but this part over here, not so much. And I'm like, how did he know all this stuff? Then a few years later, he passed away, and I found out that he had gotten the Medal of Honor for his bravery during the Battle of the Bulge as a sergeant. And he never said a word about it to me.
Wow. Yeah. See, but that's what but see, that's the thing. Our society's lacking. It's only recording the history of the winners, or the people, in charge are only giving the story now. And the people that actually do these things, they don't pass anything on.
No, and for some reason, it's like if you tell your story in the white culture, you're bragging.
Yeah.
But in the native culture, if you tell your story, and unless you embellish it, then you're bragging. But then, there are folks like, he said, sometimes I add a little bit to the story. And, guy, where did he come up with they went down to the creek and all this stuff? Folks who have heard the story before and remember, they chuckle amongst themselves, but any newcomers like, ooh, they went down to the creek, and everybody else is going, he just added that, for embellishment. But to the point, though, about the storytelling, though, it was a way of giving folks the history. And, no, it wasn't written down. And so as grandfather passed, some of his stories went with him. Those were the minor stories. But the great ones like Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull and, them kind of folks, though they had stories, and folks said, I remember my grandfather telling me about Sitting Bull and dot. So those stories have been carried down because of how famous these people were. And yeah, there were some minor chiefs and other braves that were with Crazy Horse and stuff, and they were just as crazy as he was because they were riding right beside him, but they don't talk about him. They just talk about Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get off on this, but what he was describing, though, there's a lot of information in that little bit of description of what he was talking about.
Absolutely. So I hope everybody goes back and watches it. I'll probably try to put out some shorts on all of these so people can go back and check them all out later. So here we go to our next one. And oops. Oh, hang on.
Before you start that, does he have his own channel
His
or
own
site or anything?
I've been looking for it. He's got a thing on Facebook, and I cannot.
Okay, I was
Cannot.
just curious because I know other people are going to ask, that question.
I've
Well,
been
what does
looking
he have a
for it.
website?
He's got a thing on Facebook, but I cannot find it. So it's there. It's
Yeah.
Michael Badhand. So here we go. Let's see if this works this time. And why isn't it playing? Huh. Okay, that didn't work so good. Well, that's odd. It didn't want me to play that. Okay, let's see here. Let's go with this one.
It scrapes that port. This port is called the port on a bit. Most people, they don't even use a curve bit. A lot of people do. But most people use a snap up because it's easier on the port. But today, the curve, the port is called this thing here, this top part. It's only like a half inch, 3/4 inch. This is almost 3 inches. The taller it is, the harder it is on the horse. Because that's scraping on the roof of the horse's mouth as you pull on those reins like that. And these are digging like into its tongue like that. But the Indians, just like the Spanish that made these and stuff, you rode with your legs a lot. You controlled your horse with your legs a lot, and then you use the reins to back it up. And subtle little movements. You don't have to like be yanking their head all. You can do the slightest little thing like this, and a good horse, will respond to that really well. So. And then the silver mounted headstalls, also they became, because you look at this, the Indians didn't have anything like this. They loved this stuff. And so they started copying them, the ones that the Navajo were making. And so in the 1850s, German silver was finally invented. And it's an alloy. It has no real silver in it. So it still looks like silver, but it's a lot cheaper to make. And you can come places like this and get 12 by 12 inch sheets of it. And they'd go back and cold chisel out. They buy chisels here, hacksaws, bits, files. And you go through the inventories of these old forts, and they'll have thousands of files, like 20 different types. No kidding. So, and because they were trading the white people and they were trading the Indians to work metal with. It was usually the older men, just like the older women, did all the quill work and stuff, because it's time consuming and takes a skill, and they no longer can do this. They could when they were like 23, whatever. So the men were the same. When they started getting 50, 60, 70 years old, they were the ones that did all the metal work. They were the ones that made all the arrows. They made the bows. The stuff that takes a lot of time and patience to make is what those guys made. And then the young guys were more than happy to trade some buffalo tenderloin for a brand new bow. They didn't want to sit around talking to their buddies for hours, smoking pipe, making a bow. They wanted to go out and shoot that bow. So everybody was happy with that whole situation. This quiver here, fortunately, it doesn't have the bow in it. It looks a lot better with the bow. But these were popular, and this is made out of a mountain lion. And like I say, normally there'd be a bow in this case. So what we have here is you have the body of the mountain lion, there's the tail, see, and that's the quiver. So your arrows go in there. And then they would take the beads from Italy and the cloth from England. Pour that on, so that meant you're wealthy just because you got your good fortune to give that. And the quivers usually only held about 30 arrows, and in hold 40, 50, 60, or 100 arrows. And so that's the body of the animal, and that makes the quiver. And like I say, when you wear it, that tail is hanging down off your back just like that. And then, like I say, next time I do this tomorrow, I'll have the bow in it. So then the bow case is actually made out of the front legs of the cougar. So there's one front paw with the paws and the claws left on it. And then you sew the arm in a tube in half, all the way across the back, and one center piece all the way down to the next paw. And then you sew this end shut. So this end up here is where you put your bow. So your bow goes right here, just like this. There you go. And so when you wore it, the paw hung down like this. Then as soon as you pulled your bow out, it was designed so that it drops out of the way, so you can just attach to the strap. And then the strap is actually the hind legs. See, there's one hind foot with the paws on the claws left on it. Strip up the belly, and then there's the other one that would just strip up the belly like that. I see what I'm saying. Okay. So, was really only like 4 types of instruments, and flutes were one of them. And flutes were played for one reason and one reason only: courting or dating or love medicine, love power over women. And they believed that the songs would enchant a woman to fall in love with you. And the matchmakers of the tribe were generally, some of you probably heard of the term a two-spirit person. Well, that's like a gay person in the Indian community. We'll keep it, it's fine, just leave it like that. But they called it a two-spirit because they believed that person had the spirit of both a man and a woman. And generally it was accepted, but it varied between tribes, it varied between individuals. But it was generally accepted because they believed that God made that person that way. God can't be imperfect. So it's just like that. But anyway, so those guys were the matchmakers because they were men, but they had the heart of a woman, see. So the men felt comfortable going. The men would go to some other woman and ask for love advice, and the women would like giggle at him if he did, So he'd go to one of these, and then they would tell him, well, they like compliments and they like gifts and they like it if you're nice to them, you don't abuse them, all that. So anyway, they'd also teach them songs. And so these flutes like this, the songs were considered spiritually powerful, not magical, but spiritually powerful. And so they'd play those, and they'd follow some girl around they were interested in, for days, sometimes just playing the same 4 bad notes over. And it wasn't like Carlos Nakai, the master Native American flutist today, with loons and waterfalls in the background, and it's usually like 4 notes, really bad, over and over and over again. And so I tell people it's the equivalent of like when a teenage boy calls a girl like 5 times a day, Hi, is Betsy there? No, quit calling here. Click, whatever. Yeah. And then finally the dad's like, tell that boy to leave you alone or go out on with him, one or the other. And so then with some of the tribes, like the Mandan and the Hidatsa, and again, don't worry, I'll keep this real GP. So you just fill in a lot of blanks. So the men had what they called their love conquest bundle, okay? And each one of these sticks stood for a love conquest. Okay, you got it. Okay, and they knew every one. This is a Buffalo Bear woman, 2 snows ago down on the Green River. Oh, it's excellent. And she could be right there and wouldn't be offended if it was true. And there's a lot worse on TV today. Okay, yeah. Okay. And so they could go through their whole bundle. And this is so and so and so and so. Oh, hey, what? Well, I don't know about that one. And today, there's no way you wouldn't want to date a guy that had a love bundle this big. But they were proud of it. Yeah. And then these breastplates. This is something that everybody sees. It's very, very, very super Indian, and they probably were wearing them forever. We know that before like 1850s and 60s, these just didn't exist. Period. And these air pipes, which are these little bone things here, first they were made out of conch shell, and they were made in New Jersey by an enterprising Scotsman named Jonathan Campbell, and they were bringing up conch shells from the Bahamas as ballast on ships, and they were dumping them off in the New York, Jersey harbors. And this Scotsman's like, there's a way to make a buck here, I bet, So he made these lays. I mean, we know all this, like super documented. He made these lays that they would turn these shell air pipes out. And so when Lewis and Clark came, they brought, just because they were just beginning to make them then, they just brought a handful of them. I can't remember exactly. Wasn't many, 20 or 30. And they're still called a hair pipe today, even when they're made of plastic, because back then they only had enough for one man to have like one maybe. And they'd do a little bitty braid right by their eye and slide that hair pipe up by their eye, hanging vertically like this. And so that's why they're called a hair pipe today. And then it wasn't until the 1860s, 70s, 80s, and 90s that they started to make them out of bone. And they were just local beef bone from the local beef abattoir house. They were not romantic buffalo or nothing like that. And then, so when a guy went out on a date like that, he'd have his love medicine bundle walking around, like that. They also might have like a mirror like this. They came in all kinds of different forms. And they would get the mirrors from the trading post and then build these boards around them. There was all kinds of different. A lot of them were like this. So you could drive it in the ground. So when you sat down on the ground, they just drive that in the ground and they like sit back. Man, And the men were like that. And they were supposed to be. And the men dressed up a lot more than the women, a lot more often than the women. And the men were expected to be real vain, and for two reasons. Because today, that's really frowned on. Yeah, as it should be. But when you think of it like this, now they did. So number one, if the young men in your tribe look like these guys up here did, that means your tribe is powerful and strong, and we're doing well financially, and we're secure, all that. So that's how they saw it. They weren't like, well, look at him, strutting around, blah, 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 blah. They were like, oh, yeah, great, and all that stuff like that. So that's the main thing about it. And also, it was great entertainment. As I said, they didn't have to get the attention of all the girls and 14. And that's kind of a current process today too. Yeah, which is kind of I personally believe girls should be allowed to be a girl before they. So anyway, but they would carry these mirrors around, and they also believed that the mirror had a spiritual power to it associated with the sun, where you take the power of God working through the sun, and let me back up on that minute. So what looks like you're worshiping the sun, or worshiping an eagle, or worshiping a buffalo, they were not. They almost all believed in one supreme God, but the best way to look at it is those were like deities or angels or saints. That's another way to look, like an eagle, the sun. All of those were beneficial things that God worked his power through, and how God helped man and God communicate better through all those other things. So that's another basic of Indian religion. If you don't understand, it looks like they were worshiping they had like hundreds of gods. One God, power came, and the sun was the most powerful physical manifestation of God, because they knew without the sun, everything would cease. So they would take mirrors like this. Now be careful, ladies. So any girl they were interested in, what they'd do, and the girls would be like working, they work like all the time. And the guys would like get up at 10 or 11 in the day. Yeah, really. And they didn't get up at dawn and jump into the river like anything. They were young guys. But they would go, then they would take their mirrors, any girl they were interested in, they'd take the power of the sun and then like flash her in the eyes with it. And they'd be like real subtle with it, like. And then like say the girls knew all this, so she might be working away like she feels that she just knows she got zapped by one of the guys there. And so what you're trying to do is you look into the mirror, it takes a little bit of your soul out of it, and then you take the power of the sun and God, and you force your soul down into that girl by looking, her eyes look into it. And now your soul is inside of her. So like with two souls touch, you're in love. So what you're trying to do is make her fall in love with you. But then they would like yank it out and look back into it really quick, because they didn't want her to have even a piece of his soul in her. But so they would always look back really quick to take it back out.
Well, what'd you think of that one?
Well, that was quite interesting on several levels.
It was. There was a lot there. I mean, he talks about courting the girls with the flute, different things with the horse. He's talking about, there was a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the love bundle thing,
Oh, like, yeah.
What? I mean, exactly. and sort of like the bragging part we were talking about before was, they'd come out and say, hey, during my storytelling, remember that time by the creek? And oh yeah, there was little dancing bear that, I remember that one, grin, and holy mackerel. If you try to do that today, you just get sued, smacked, and otherwise shot. So culture is a lot of different, and and so like he was saying, he said the men were the peacocks. Yes. So they were the one with the feathers, and literally, and so they could show themselves off to the women, and look how pretty I am, but look how brave I am, look how bold I am, and it wasn't just some geeky thing sitting around. No, they had because of their shirts and their accomplishments and so forth. they were they had bragging rights. Here are my medals, you know.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, very interesting. Like I said, I'm going to put it up as a short. People can watch it later. But two, again, and get more out of it. Like I said, there's a lot there. The guy was really good. If you ever get a chance to go see him, in person, I would suggest that a lot because there's just, he's got a lot to say. And there was a lot I didn't get onto tape. So there you
And
go.
one of the things that, and you and I have talked about this over and over the last couple of years, is that they they weren't worshiping the sun, they weren't worshiping the eagle, whatever. And as he stated, they were like saints, they were like angels, and they were like and so there's only one God. So a lot of folks still don't believe that. But being raised in the Catholic Church with all the saints, and so there are statues of these people. And I had been accused of, when I was in the church, of worshiping these statues. And it's like, no. I prayed in front of the statue of Mother Mary, but I knew she wasn't there. But it was her essence, and I was like, by having a visual thing to look at, I'd close my eyes and pray. But if there's an eagle or a hawk or the sun or the moon, that's the representation of God. And the sun is the brightest and the most influential for us. So therefore, it would have that kind of energy. And that was interesting about the mirrors. I had not heard about the mirror thing.
Yeah,
and
that was
a part of your soul would go to her, and that's what would make the love. Holy crap. I mean, I had not heard that. But with that though, and all the boasting and everything, and of all the love sticks and all that kind of thing, most of the men that I've met, some of them were buttholes, but that was usually when they were drinking. But they always treated their women well until their women tried to be, how do I say this? Traditional Indians can't be traditional because of the internet. And I've known several couples who were absolutely great until the internet came. And then the husband's thinking this way, and he goes to his job every day and he does his thing, but the wife's at home with a couple of kids, blah blah blah, and she's on the internet and doing stuff, and next thing you know, they're divorced. And I remember this one gentleman, he looked at me and goes, I don't know what I did. I went to work, I'm do this, and we do traditional things on the weekend. I have not a clue what I did wrong. But mommy, and whatever it was, and people, if he didn't come home on time, he must be doing something, and blah, 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 blah. And then she meets somebody else in a chat room. Next thing you know, they're divorced. And it's a shame.
Yeah.
And it's not just Native Americans, but, some of the men that I've met who are dancers and drummers and so forth, that are trying to be traditional as much as they can in a modern day. The women are just not there. They're off somewhere with texting and doing this kind of thing. And it's a shame.
It is. It really is. I agree on all of that. I mean, I remember back in the day when it was the Oprah syndrome. Oprah was on TV always telling about how women are this and women are that, and watching those commercials like I gotta be beautiful and you gotta worship me, and that's why a lot of guys go to overseas to get a woman, because the women over there are not corrupted. They're
grateful.
Yes, they are. And here,
until they get corrupted.
Yeah, but the ones here, they've been corrupted all from the get-go. Oh, I got to be pretty. I got to be rich, or I got to find a rich man, and and he's got to make six figures, and he's got to be 6 foot tall. And Well, if you start adding that all up, you're getting down a real small percentage of men that are making six figures and are 6 foot tall, you know, and
Yeah, and one
tall,
of the
dark, and
other
handsome and ready to go.
and one of the other things too, which I think is just gross, is that it's okay to be 350 pounds. Look at me in latex.
Yes.
Skin tight. Look at my beautiful body, and I just want to literally throw up. And so it's okay to be obese. It's all
Yeah.
right to be 300 and 350 pounds. I'm so beautiful. Look at me. Now, if a man goes out there and says, "Oh, look at me, I'm 350 pounds of fat," all the women go, "Whoa, yeah." But a 300-pound woman in latex, look at my body and worship me because black is beautiful. And I mean, you know, anyway,
No, I totally agree
it's
with you.
insane.
I totally agree.
It's insane.
I totally agree.
Go
Let's
ahead,
see.
gain 10 more pounds because, you know, oh man.
Yeah, I don't get it myself. I really don't. Okay, let's finish up with this. I think some of these, I'm just going to scan through. Some of these we've already seen. This lady was making spinning wool, you know, on one of those, what do you call that? Spinning
Spinning
wheel.
wheel.
Yes. That was
One of
really
those
interesting.
gizmos.
Yeah. She was given lessons on that. I didn't get a video of her, I don't think. This guy here was putting up a tent. Oh
yeah, it's like a shelter half. I'll tell you what, from looking at how the plains are and there's no trees or anything, it'd be hard for an enemy to hide, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, you see that enemy coming from
It'd be hard
miles
for them
away. Yeah,
it'd
you'd
be
see
hard for
that
them to sneak up on you.
definitely. Yeah, you wouldn't be sneaking up fast. A great picture of the ground. That's the one I wanted to get to. There you go. Ain't one of the fastest tents to put up. This is the guy with the canoe. That's a big ass canoe, even though it is small. Here's his buckets that he had. Kind of the wares they would have back in the day. There's the fort and the inside of the fort. That was the outside of the shed. That was inside the trading area. Some old chairs and desks. You know,
Yeah.
just boards and just very simple. You know, I mean, today we would look at it and go, wow, that room's unfinished. Where's the carpeting? You know, where's the this, that, and the other? That was it. boxes, no cardboard. When you're moving a box, half the weight's the box. Old maps, a press, dogs. Maybe we went through that dog thing. Clerk's office.
It was interesting when you went to the metalworking guy and how they would get the barrels, and after the barrels were empty, that they would take them apart for the wood and also for the metal bandings and stuff and reuse them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all of these, they didn't waste nothing.
They recycled everything back then.
Yeah, exactly, until it was unrecyclable.
Well, even if a wagon was tore up and you couldn't make a wagon of it, you could sit and have a campfire.
Well, that's what the guy was saying. They bring the old wagons in that were broken, and they would make parts out of them.
Right.
The metal bands on the wheels, and I suppose nails and things and whatever that held it together.
Yeah, handles and things, and and you can work wood and other. If like barrels have got a pitch to them, they're rounded, they're not straight.
Yeah.
And so barrel making, I'll tell you what, there's a dang sure trick to it. Not everybody can make a barrel because of the way the wood is shaped. But if you soak the wood and then heat it back up, you can do all kinds of things with the wood. So especially the type of wood they made barrels out of. So, they made handles for things, and I and depending on how tall the barrel was, you could make parts for a wagon with it. Absolutely. So
yeah. Plain Jane store there, huh? Of course, you ain't buying all this. See how we went from such frivolous stuff? I mean, we went from basics. What do you need in your house? Well, I need a pot. I'd like a lantern, maybe to see what I'm doing. I'd like a pan so I can eat out of or cook with. I might want, some ornaments like a bell or a whistle, maybe a knife or an axe, things I really needed. And other than that,
bare necessities.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The bare necessities. There was no, hey, we need these little trinkets over here. I need some tacks and some paper, and I need a desk, and I need some computer supplies, and I need a camera, and I want some mirrors, and I gotta have some
and here's
paintings on the walls, and
that hasn't really been discussed, but just because there are things that are hanging there, one thing that has not been discussed has been catalogs.
Yeah.
Back in the day, if you had the money, the merchants would have a catalog, and you could flip through that catalog, and the women picked out dresses that way. Men picked out hats and vests and suits because it was too costly for most of these outposts to have that kind of thing just sitting on hand because they'd have to buy it. But now you could order it like Sears Roebuck catalog, which was so famous back in the day. The catalog came in and everybody would rush to go look on it. Was taken to the outhouse and it was used for a butt wipe.
That's right.
That's honestly the thing. But so most folks ain't talking about outhouses and the Sears Roebuck catalog. But if you really wanted something like a farm implement or equipment, you could pay the merchant and whatever, then they deliver it. Just, ooh, my dress came in, or ooh, whatever that you ordered with the catalog. So, so if you didn't see it on the shelf, you could order it.
Yes.
I mean, even those little outposts, you could say, hey, I'm going to be baking or something. Tell the guy to bring an extra 10 pounds of sugar or something. So you could make sure that your order came in. But anyway, that's enough of that. But yeah, it wasn't like they couldn't get stuff, but the outpost only carried certain things. But you could dang sure order it. I need a new shovel. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that is it. That's the end of the pictures.
And sometimes if they had stock, it might have been that Joe ordered a pickaxe, but Joe
Yep.
had come back out of the mountains and they ain't heard from Joe in 6 months. And so
Yep.
somebody comes in and says, I need a pickaxe. Well, they just sell Joe's,
Yeah.
so. And if Joe comes in and wants one, they go, Joe, it's on back order. You weren't here and we sold it to somebody else. And, and Joe understands, because that's the way it
Yep.
was back then. If you ain't here to
That's
pick it up and it sits in my store, then it's fair game, which is sort of true nowadays, with
Mhm.
if you sell something on consignment. If you don't come and get it or do whatever, then it becomes the property of the person who's selling it, not the person who,
Well,
made it.
I know. I totally get that. And that happens. I mean, nothing really ever changes. You didn't come up and pick up your product, we sold it to somebody else. Nowadays if you put a deposit on it.
Yeah, but
Anyhow,
people still
you
got
got a
cheated.
story for us tonight.
Yeah, two of them actually. But, back in the day, there was a lot of fighting and cheating and stabbing going on because somebody had agreed on a certain price for something. And, maybe they ordered 2 shovels and when it came in, the guy says, oh, well, I said it was going to cost $2 a piece. But they actually, they're $4 a piece. They're twice as much because of the shipping and all that. And the guy stand there and go, wait a minute, I already paid for these things. There's levels there. Well, you can't have, and then a fight breaks out. Well, it's sort of like, well, you advertised to me it would be this price. And I bring this up because of my issue with Walmart the other day. $179 for an air conditioner, cut down to $149. I buy one. I'm not feeling real good, trying to get in the truck and everything and come home. I look at the bill and no, it was not $149. It was $179. They lied to me. They cheated me out of $30, because they false advertisement. And there was 2 other things that was false advertisement. It was supposed to have been $8.50. They were $12 and something. And so Walmart cheats. So cheating has been going on for a long time, and they cheated back then too. Just want to say.
Oh, I agree.
And they get away
Yeah,
with it.
you gotta watch them. Oh, you get up to the checkout. It says 149, but when you get up to the checkout, it rings up 179. If you don't catch it, well, stuff's on you.
Right.
But if you
I'd walked
catch it,
around the store, my back was hurting, and I was ready to go. And
yeah,
normally I check those kinds of things, and I just accepted that Walmart was being fair and true. So
yeah.
I
See
lost
that?
$40 yesterday because Walmart lied.
Well, see, the thing is, and they know that. I swear they know because they figure you're
Yeah,
gonna
they do.
swipe that card, debit card or other credit, and you're not gonna pay in cash. And if you were sitting there and you were paying in cash and you were whipping out the cash, you'd be like, well, the thing was $179 or $49. Here you go. Here's $149. Nope, it's
I would have caught it
210.
then.
Yes, you would have caught it then. And they know that. They know if you're paying cash, you catch things. If you're paying on a card, you go, bloop, okay.
Cheaters.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Cheaters.
the way that's
Doggone it.
it's
But
only going to get worse.
but there was a lot of if you could find a fair trader back in the day, that was a good thing.
Yes.
And most of the time, most of them were fairly fair, but some of those Indian, they'd have stores, for the Indians and whatever at the kind of sort of like there. But you know, they were not fair to the Indian at all. Not one bit. They cheated him every time they could.
Every time. Of
And
course.
it's no wonder that the red man got an attitude. I'm just saying. Okay, that's enough of that. So the stories. Let's go back to cut that out. I got a bad speaker wire. I got to fix. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, the Seneca Indians, and we didn't set this up ahead of time, Robert. So let me give you a page. Where'd it go? It's around 100 and something.
What's the story called?
106.
What's the story called?
Gayquaga.
Ooh, that sounds good. And you can pronounce it. Maybe. That's right. All right.
I don't know. I just sort of made it up.
Oh, okay.
Weird noises going on outside. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Me and Doug are both like, what's that? Are you there?
Yes, I am. Look at that.
Are you there yet?
Just like that.
Okay, I'm
Bada
looking at
bing,
my
bada
screen. Okay, let me
All
get
right.
a sip of slip. This one's really short, and there's another one that's kind of short right behind it if we want to. So
Oops.
the characters are raven, blackbirds, ground birds, sparrows, robin, and muckworm. Ooh. And there's no way I'm going to try to pronounce their names. I might murder one later on in the story. We'll see. So the name of the story is Gakwaga. No idea what it. Well, in this it says it's Raven, so the story must be about Raven. Raven was traveling, but he didn't know whence he came or whither he was going. As he journeyed along, he was thinking, how did I come to be alive? Where did I come from? And where am I going? After a long time, he saw a smoke and going toward it, saw four hunters, blackbirds. Afraid to go near them, he hid in the forest and watched. The next morning, after the hunters had started away, Raven crept up to their camp, stole their meat, carried it into the woods, and made a camp for himself. He was lonely, and he said, I wish there were other people here. Looking around, he saw a house west of his camp, and going to it, found Robin and his wife and 5 children. Raven ate the youngest child and then ate the other 4. The father and mother tried to drive him away, but could not. When at last Raven went off, he left old Robin and his wife crying for their children. Some time after this, Raven saw a camp off in the southeast, and going there found a family of sparrows. He was afraid of the old people and he ran off, but they followed him, caught up, and hit him on the head till they drove him far away. It is a shame to let such little people beat me, thought Raven, but he was afraid to go back. Now, Raven had gone far from his camp. He hunted everywhere in the forest, but couldn't find it. Well, he said at last, let it go. I don't care. And he walked away toward the north. Just before dark, he found a camp and going towards it, saw 4 men and a large quantity of meat. He hid in the forest, and the next morning, looking toward the camp, he again saw the hunters. I'll wait till they go away, thought Raven. Then I'll steal their meat. Soon he heard the men moving around. Then all was quiet, and he knew that they had gone. He crept slowly towards the camp. But when he reached it, he didn't find even one bite of meat. They were the hunters from whom he had stolen before. They had finished hunting, had packed their meat, and started for home. Raven was disappointed. He walked on and towards night found another camp. Creeping near it, he again saw the four hunters. He listened to what they were saying. One said, I wonder who stole our meat that day. Another said, I think the thief is walking around in the woods. I think his name is Raven. Oh, thought Raven, they are talking about me. They will be on the watch. How can I get their meat? Then he said, let them fall asleep and sleep soundly. That minute the four hunters fell asleep. Raven went up boldly, took their meat, carried it off into the woods, and hid it, saying, this is the kind of man I am. The next morning the four hunters missed their meat. One said, somebody has stolen my meat. Another asked, who has stolen my meat? The third said, I dreamed that I saw Raven around here, and he started off towards the southwest. Then the fourth said, let us follow the direction given by the dream. The hunters started to follow the thief. Soon they came to the place where he was camped. Raven had been out all night, and now he was sleeping soundly. One of the men said, we must kill him. No, said another, let him live. He didn't kill us while we were asleep. They took their meat and went away. When Raven woke up, he was very hungry, but the meat was gone. Well, thought he, I must hunt for something to eat. He traveled around in every direction, but found no game. About midday, he heard the noise of people. He listened a while and then went on till he came to a house. A man inside the house was singing, and the song said, Raven is coming. Look out, be careful. Raven is coming. Why does he sing about me? Thought Raven. I'll go in and find out. He went into the house and found Groundbird and his wife and four children. I have come to stay a few days with you, said Raven. Very well, said the man. That night, Raven ate the four children, then lay down and slept. The next morning, the father and mother asked, where are our children? Raven said, I dreamed that a man came and carried your children off, and my dream told me which way he went. I will go with you and hunt for them. When the three had traveled some distance, Raven said, the man who stole your children lives on that high cliff over there. I can't go there with you, for I don't like that man. I'll wait here till you come back. As soon as the father and mother were out of sight, Raven ran off. He traveled till he came to where there were many of his own people. They were dancing, and he sat down to watch them. Soon, Muckworm was seen coming from the east. The people stopped dancing and ran in every direction. But Muckworm pursued them, and catching one after another by the neck, he threw them aside dead. Raven, who was watching, thought, what sort of a man is that? I wish he would see me He can't throw me off dead in that way. Muckworm, after killing many of the Raven people, started toward the west. Raven followed him. Muckworm kept on for a long time without seeming to know that there was anyone behind him. But at last he stopped, looked back, and asked, "What do you want?" "I don't want anything," said Raven. "I've come to be company with you, for you." "I don't want any company," said Muckworm. Raven was frightened. Both men stood still for a minute, then Muckworm sprang at Raven and caught him. He would have killed him, but Raven screamed so loudly that many of his people heard the cry and came to his aid. They flew at Muckworm and pecked him to death. The end of the story of Raven.
Wow, that was good. Huh. Raven just seems like he's just
Yeah.
invincible.
He didn't know where he came from, didn't know where he was going, and next thing you know, he's eating people's children.
Yeah. I ate four or five children here and 4 or 5 children there. Life is good. Jeez.
Yeah, you don't have to feed me. I just ate your kids,
Yep.
Better luck next time.
Oh.
So, but anyway, this next story, if you'll go on down, is another short one. And it's called The Thunder Boy.
Okay.
And I thought since the other one was so short, we'd do another one today.
Absolutely. So
Just
there we
because we
go.
like telling stories.
Anytime you're
You ready
there?
there?
You bet.
Okay, Thunder Boy. Hino Hohawaka, Thunder's son, and I'm Yejihidi is Panther. So, but I'm going to go with Panther, Thunder, and Thunder's son. And this is the Thunder Boy. And I'll just throw this out there. A lot of stories start out with a poor old woman in the woods or a poor old man in the woods, but just saying. So here's Thunder Boy. A poor old woman lived in a smoky little cabin in the woods. She was only skin and bones, and she cried all the time, both day and night. Her blanket was so old and dirty that nobody could have told of what kind of skin it was made. This old woman had had 7 daughters. 6 had been carried off, one after another. The 7th daughter died. The daughter who died had been buried some time when one night her mother heard crying. She took a torch and, going out toward the grave, found a naked baby. She wrapped the baby in her blanket and took it home. The baby, a little boy, grew very fast. One day, when the grandmother came home from gathering wood, he was not in the house, and she couldn't find him. That night there was a storm with thunder and lightning. In the coming morning, when the child came back, the grandmother asked, "Where have you been, my grandson?" "I have been with my father. He took me home with him." "Well, who is your father?" "Ino is my father. He took me home first, then we came back and were around here all night." "Was my daughter your mother?" asked the old woman. "She was," answered the boy, "and Hino is my father." The old woman believed her grandson. As the boy grew, he often made a noise like the noise of thunder, and whenever Hino came to the neighborhood, the child went out and helped his father. He was Hino Hoyawak, son of Hino. After a time, the boy asked his grandmother where his 6 aunts were, and she said, "Far away from here, there is a mother and son who live by playing dice. Your aunts went there with a company of people. They played, were beaten, and their heads were cut off. Many men and women have gone to the same place and have lost their heads." "I will go and kill that woman and her son," said the boy. The grandmother tried to keep him at home, but he wouldn't stay with her. He was ragged and dirty. He asked her to make him 2 pairs of moccasins. She made them, and for a pouch she gave him the skin of a flying squirrel. The boy started off toward the west, and after a while he came to a large opening where there was a bark house with a pole in front of it, and on the pole hung a skin blanket. He heard a great noise and saw that at one end of the opening old men were betting and boys were playing ball. When people saw him, one said to another, "Who is that boy? Where did he come from?" Soon an old man went up to Hino Hoyawak, gave him a club, and asked him to play. He played a ball so well that the same man came to him and said, "We want you to play dice. My people will bet on you." "I don't know how to play dice," answered the boy. "We will risk our heads on you," said the man. Young Hino followed the old man to the pole that stood by the bark house. The betting woman was sitting there on an elk skin. In front of her was a white stone bowl, as smooth as glass. Hino Mohawiwak knelt down beside the bowl. The woman said, "You must play first." "No," said he, "you must play first." The woman took up her dice, which were round and made out of stone. She blew on them, threw them into the bowl, shook the bowl, and called out, "Game! Game!" The dice flew up in the air, became crows, and cawed as they went out of sight. Soon they came down, cawing, as they touched the bowl, and there were stones again. The woman had 3 plays in which to get a count of 17. She threw 3 times, but made no score. Then young Hino took the dice out of his pouch, made of the skin of the flying squirrel. The woman insisted on his using her dice, but he refused. He put his dice in the bowl and shook the bowl. The dice became wild ducks and flew into the air. The ducks went very high. All the people heard them as they rose. When they came down and touched the bowl, they were stones and scored 10. Hino shook the bowl again and called, "Game! Game!" The old woman called, "No game! No game!" The ducks flew up, and when they came down, they scored another 10. He tried a third time and scored 10. Then he called to the people to come and see him cut off the head of the betting woman. "Wait," said the woman, "you must play ball with my son. If he loses, he will lose his head." Hino asked the old men what he should do. Seeing how powerful he was, they said, "Play." He went to the ball ground. He was ragged and looking very poor. Only the 2 played. Hino Mohayawak sprang forward and knocked the club out of Yengohen's hand. The young man ran for his club, but before he could get it, Hino Hoya sent the ball through the goal. This was repeated 7 times, and Hino's son won the game. Then he said to the people, "Now you can destroy the old woman and her son." They did. Then the young boy said, "I am going to bring my grandmother to this place, and we will have this long house to live in." As he traveled toward home, he sang praises of himself, and his grandmother heard him when he was a long way off. When he came to the cabin, he told her what he had done and said, "We must go there and live in the longhouse." She made ready and started, but it took a long time to reach the place, for friends went with them. When they had all settled in houses built around the opening, Hinyahoyaha called the people to the longhouse for a dance. The grandmother threw away her old blanket and put on the clothes left by the gambling woman, and then she looked like a young girl. After a time, Hinyahoyaha went off with Hinyo, his father, and stayed with him all winter. When spring came, the grandmother was uneasy about the boy. But one day she heard thunder off in the west, and soon her grandson came to the cabin. "Where have you been?" asked she. "On a great mountain far off in the west. I have been with my father, helping the nations and protecting men." The boy stayed with his grandmother that spring and summer. Once in a while, when it began to storm, he went away, but he always came back when the storm was over. The two lived a long time in this way, but at last the boy said, "You have a brother living in the West. Some wizard stole him from you. I must go and find him." And he went west to look for his uncle. Hinyahoyoha traveled till he came to a cabin. In the cabin, a woman was sitting by a fire. When he asked where his uncle was, she wouldn't answer. Taking his war club from his pouch, he struck her on the head and killed her. Then he went out, walked around the house, mourning and looking for his uncle. At last he heard a man groaning. He looked up in the trees, for he couldn't see anyone on the ground. But the man was not in a tree. He followed the sound and soon came to a large, slippery elm tree. A man lay under the tree. He was held down by great roots. His head came out between two roots on one side, and his feet between two roots on the other side. The tree stood on the middle of his body. He was calling out to his nephew to give him a smoke. Hinyahoha said, "Oh, my poor uncle, how badly off you are. I will give you a smoke right away." He kicked the tree over, saying, "Rise up, uncle." The man stood up at once and was well. Hinyahoha took out his pouch and gave the old man a stone pipe and Indian tobacco, and he grew strong. Then he told his nephew how a woman had enticed him to go with her, and then she ate him up and put his bones under the elm tree. The uncle and nephew went to the longhouse. The old grandmother was surprised and glad, and the three lived happily. The nephew went off in a storm, and when the storm was over, he brought back a wife. Then he went off with a storm. His wife was uneasy. The woman didn't know where she was from. In a terrible storm, Hinyahoha had brought her home on his back. After a time, she had a son. And when the boy was old enough to run around, the uncle, whose bones had lain under the elm tree, began to teach him. And soon the child was able to make a noise, roar like the roar of thunder. One day, the child followed his mother out of the house. She had a little dog that followed too. As the boy was running along, somebody seized him and rushed off. The dog ran after him and, jumping to snatch him away, caught hold of his feet and pulled off his moccasins. The dog carried the moccasins home. When the mother saw the moccasins, she knew that her boy was gone. The father was off in a storm. When he came home, the woman asked if he had taken the boy away. "I have not," said he. "Oh, he is lost," cried the woman. "He is safe," said Hinyahoha. "He has many relatives around the world, uncles and cousins. The boy was gone all winter, but one day in spring he came home with his father." Then Hinyahoha said to his family, "We must all go and live with my father." The old grandmother said, "I can't go. It is far and I am old." "I will carry you," said the grandson. Then Hinyahoha began to thunder and lightning flew around. The longhouse was torn to pieces and blazed up in flames. All the rocks and houses and trees in the opening were destroyed. Hinyahoha and his people rose up in the air. The east wind blew, and it bore them to the high mountains in the west. And there they found old Hinyo. And to this day, the Thunder family lives on that mountain in caves and among the rocks.
Well, that was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, it's got, it had stuff in the middle, and he went out and learned stuff, and he came back, and, there wasn't a lot of killing.
A lot of killing. There's always killing in these stories.
Yeah, there's always some kind of killing, Go over there and get rid of him, or eat him, one. But the fact that, the clan stayed together and now it's time to go visit, to stay with, my father. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, yeah, that was an interesting story.
Yeah,
And it was fun to read.
it was. Absolutely. All right. What do we got?
How much time we
Cool.
got? Oh, we're an
Ah,
hour and 23 minutes in.
yep. You got enough time to read a card. Got a
Yeah,
card.
all right. I'm getting them out. This is, I'm going to pull a card for the fourth.
Yep. I
And
know.
so the, for us as we're recording this, shh, don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
But, so this is sort of a projection, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Prediction, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, no, I don't mean that. But so it ain't for today, it's for Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yes. The
So,
4th of July.
for the 4th of July. So, um, I'm going to contemplate, the 4th of July. What sort of message, should it be an explosive message, message that'll just pop right out? Never mind. Shut up, Dave. So anyway, all right, gang, give me whatever card is necessary. All right, here we go. Wow, I just shuffled through a whole bunch of them. They were like, nah, nah, nah. Okie dokie. Wait. Owl.
Ooh.
Upside down.
Hmm.
Hang on, I think there's two cards. Okay. With a little bit of fox in there. So, already, now where's my book to read from? Okay, so the primary card today is Owl. number 21, upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And my book's upside down. We've had Al, but not recently.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Now Fox stuck his head out upside down, and Fox is about camouflage. So I'm going to read the upside down part real quick. Watch out for Wily Fox if this card has appeared reversed. Someone may be watching you. Well, y'all are watching us, but and trying to figure out your next move. If you look deeper, however, it may be that you are watching yourself to prove to yourself that you exist. If you have become a wallflower to the point of disappearing, you may need to decide that you are worth noticing. Contrary Fox may also be telling you that you have become too visible in climbing to a place of recognition. So just keep that in mind. Owl is the next one, and it's 21, right down the page here, through the book, down the street, 23, 22. And the other card is Buffalo as a backup.
Oh.
So owl is deception. Owl magic, omens, time and space. Does the truth emerge, casting out deception? Silent flight from sacred medicine bird. Now the owl, it lives at night and prays at night, and it also hunts at night. Never mind. But owl is oftentimes the medicine of sorcerers and witches. Um, but is it any wonder that in many cultures, owl is a symbol for wisdom? Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom, had a companion owl on her shoulder, which revealed unseen truths to her. Owl had the ability to light up Athena's blind side, enabling her to speak the whole truth as opposed to only a half truth. So the contrary upside down owl in this is if you have owl upside down in your cards, you have been greatly deceived by either yourself or another or others. Perhaps witchcraft or black magic is being used against you, or maybe you are using witchcraft or sorcery to aid you. Well, if any of y'all are doing that, cut it out. The message is to befriend the darkness inside yourself. Look deeply, and soon the bright light of dawn will illuminate you. Then ask yourself what you're in the dark about. So if you're using any kind of, spells or incantations or anything like that, it'll send you into the darkness. So as Fox is camouflage, and I'm not saying you all, but there are folks out there who are deceiving you about a lot of stuff. Politics, health, you name it, And so have you lied to yourself because you are being deceived? So you lie to yourself because you make yourself believe something. Somebody's told you something, and you deceive yourself by believing it rather than going, well, I don't know about that. You don't disbelieve it right away, but you scratch your head and give yourself a moment. Are you being greatly deceived or just slightly being deceived? There are folks out there on the internet and whatever, a lot of deception going on. Just pay attention. Now, Buffalo, number 19, was sort of a backup, like, here you go. So, and Buffalo is prayer and abundance. So we've had Fox, who is telling you that maybe you've been camouflaged too much, or maybe you're standing out too much and there might be people wanting to pick at you. So, but Buffalo is prayer and abundance. Buffalo, you bring us the gifts of life. Here are prayers, smoke rising like the phoenix. We are reborn within the sacred words. In the Lakota tradition, it was the white buffalo calf woman who brought the sacred pipe to the people and taught them how to pray. The bowl of the pipe was a receptacle that held the tobacco and herb with male and female medicine. All animals are sacred, but in many traditions, white buffalo is the most sacred. The appearance of white buffalo is a sign that prayers are being heard. Buffalo was the major source of sustenance for the Plains Indians. It gave meat, food, clothes, hide, and warm, soft buffalo robes for long winter. But because of its desire to give the gifts that its body provided, and because of its willingness to be used on earth for the highest good before entering the hunting grounds of spirit, buffalo did not readily stampede and run from hunters. To use buffalo medicine is to smoke the pipe in a sacred manner and to give praise for the richness of life. Buffalo medicine is a sign that you achieve nothing without the aid of the Great Spirit, and that you must be humble enough to ask for that assistance and be grateful for what you receive. So, amen.
And there you go.
Don't be deceived. Keep an eye on stuff. Fox is telling you that, it's all about camouflage. Maybe you're standing out in the middle of the road, or maybe you're doing something else, or, that may be too visible and you shouldn't be, or, then you wonder why you're being picked on.
Yep. That's for sure. That is for sure.
So I really like the second story today.
Yes, that was really good. That was. You kind of saved the family there. I took them to the mountain.
Yeah, doing these stories, for our 4th of July special, right?
That's right. Yeah, Thunder for the 4th of July. Pretty good.
Thunder Boy.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fireworks being fired off this year. I see the sellers are all selling. I went uptown. They're on every corner.
We're recording.
So,
Yep. I bought $70 worth of fireworks at I didn't know that we had a local fireworks store that's like open all the time. And oh my God, there had a lot of stuff in there. So I like mortars really well. And my friend Rob, who comes and has helped me and everything, his children's over there. And I told him, I said, come get me this weekend and I'll go over to, take me to your house because my truck's still broke. But, then we'll set off these fireworks for all of us he's got a nice open hill there, a really nice spot to shoot off fireworks. So, But anyway, yeah, there's going to be a bunch of noise. I'm going to make some, I know.
Great. I don't know. I'm going to sit out here in the front, watch everybody else spend their money as they shoot them off all over the place.
Yeah,
free fireworks show. Because in North Dakota, there ain't much out there. So you can just see for miles and miles.
You can see for miles, yeah.
So,
well, if I get up here on the top of the hill, some of the neighbors have, they're a little further up the hill from me. And at the highest point, it's like 310 feet above sea level. But, when you get up on the hill, you can see around pretty good bit, off in the distance. So at least a mile on a clear shot, so if you get up there and somebody's shooting off fireworks, you can see them off in the distance. But this year, I'm going to be one of the ones shooting them off. So
it's fun shooting them off too.
Yeah, and it's been a long time, because I used to do puppets and powwows and stuff in Tennessee. And every time I came home from Tennessee, I'd always pick up whatever I could afford in fireworks. And I haven't been to Tennessee in 10 years, so I haven't had any fireworks. So, but now that I know there's a store in town, oh yeah, might be once a month.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, let's sign off because sure that either people have they're watching or they're done watching or they've been watching fireworks and they're probably rewatching our show. So
Yeah, yeah. By the time this show's at 10 o'clock, a lot of fireworks will have already been shot off. But anyway, just to say we love you all for coming and listening to our stories and our chit chat. I know I enjoyed the Indian and the stuff that, the short clips that Robert took. I really liked that. I wish that I could have been there and had a chat with him too. But anyway, thank you, Robert, for that. And thank you all, our dear friends, for coming every week or every other week or every 3 weeks. We love you and hope you've been safe.
absolutely there. But and yeah, and remember, everybody, be careful out there. 4th of July, don't blow your fingers off. You only got 5 on each hand. You need them for other things. So
Yep.
with that, everyone, go out there and be good to everybody. Happy 4th of July and enjoy yourselves. Remember, be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love you all. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.